Sunday marked 200 days since Russia launched its invasion of neighboring Ukraine. In the early days and weeks of the war, we were covering it regularly. But at some point, the media, all of us, this show included, pulled our focus away. But the war didn't stop. So today, let's just go over what's been happening over there while we've been distracted, shall we say, here at home. We know, based on rough estimates, that tens of thousands of civilians and members of the armed forces have died. According to the United Nations, at least 5,800 Ukrainian civilians have been confirmed killed, but the real number is likely much higher. And as of last month's six-month anniversary of the war, Ukraine's top commander said 9,000 Ukrainian soldiers had died, while UK intel estimates a massive 25,000 Russian soldiers killed. But the cost of this war has gone far beyond the borders of Ukraine and Russia. Last week, the UN announced that famine will reach millions of Somalis by the end of the year, a country that is hugely dependent on Ukrainian and Russian agriculture. Somalia is also suffering from a significant shortage in humanitarian aid as the biggest international donors focus on Europe. As UN humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths said, quote, Ukraine has occupied the narrative. Ukraine may be occupying the narrative when it comes to its effects internationally and how much money is going towards that war versus other countries. But the reality is that hasn't been the case in our news cycle recently, certainly not here on television. One reason we haven't been able to cover this war very much in recent months is that we've been overwhelmed with domestic news and, let's be honest, crises. Whether it was rising inflation and gas prices and economic concerns and talk of recession, or the growing threat to America's democracy, something so serious that last month Joe Biden made a point to warn about semi-fascism here in America. Not to mention all the news around Donald Trump and his latest ongoing serious legal exposures. But right now we need to pay attention to Ukraine because over the weekend there have been some major developments. Positive developments. On Monday, a spokesperson for Ukraine's Southern Military Command said Ukrainian forces had recaptured about 500 square kilometers of territory in the southern part of Ukraine over the past 2 weeks, including in the Kherson region.
А потом в обед резко начали орать, как бешеные, и начали текать, в тупую, тупать, да, в танки, в БМП, и начали тупо уезжать.
And there have been similar developments in the northeast, where Ukraine has recaptured most of the Kharkiv province. You can see videos of Ukrainians hoisting up their national flag, in these newly liberated parts of Ukraine. The Ukrainian military also releasing footage showing Russian tanks left behind in the fighting. Now, it's important to note the Russians still have control of large swaths of Ukraine's south and southeast, but Ukraine's gains are significant. So, does this mark a turning point in the war? And how much has the US military assistance helped to turn the tide of the war? Since January, America has committed more than $13.5 billion to security assistance for Ukraine, and it's slated to send at least $600 million more in the coming weeks, pending congressional approval, along with billions to neighboring countries. Is this how the war is being won? Will be won? And could this recent turn of events signal a negotiated settlement to end this war that's in Ukraine's favor? Joining me now to discuss this is Kira Rudik, a member of the Ukrainian parliament. She's also the leader of Ukraine's left-leaning pro-EU Galos party. Kira, thanks so much for coming back on the show. We are hearing all of this news of Ukrainian forces pushing back the Russian army, regaining territory in the northeast and southeast regions. Has this changed the mood in your country? Are people there feeling more hopeful today than perhaps even a few weeks ago?
Hello, Mehdi. Thank you so much for having me. You know, these news are the ones that we were waiting for the last 6 months. This is something that we desperately needed, like as another boost of motivation. We have been saying, please give us the weapons and you will see how well we will be fighting with it. So now you see how well we are fighting. And now it's the fantastic sign of what we are capable of doing if we are working together and if we are received enough of weapons and supplies and we are not facing Russian army empty-handed. So the mood in Ukraine right now is absolutely fantastic. People not only have hope that we will regain all our territories, people know it. Same way as we knew it at the day one of the war, that we will be fighting and that at some point we will take what is ours, restore our sovereignty and free our people. We are praying for our soldiers. They are doing a fantastic job and we are in aid.
How much would you say the military assistance to Ukraine from outside countries, especially the United States, has contributed to these recent wins by Ukrainian forces? Has it been kind of a marginal help, a decisive help? I'm just trying to work that out.
I would say it played a major role in our advance. I can definitely tell you that the victories that we are having are not only Ukrainian army's victories, but the victory of everybody who supported us. Because we would not be able to do it without the weapons and supplies and financial support. That's absolutely true. And this is why we are so thankful to our partners. And I think everybody who supported us should be right now very much happy about the victories, thinking, okay, we did well. We bet on the right side, the democratic side, and look how well they are fighting with our support.
Here in the US, though, Kira Rudik, as you must be aware, aid has become a controversial topic. What do you say to people in America, especially lawmakers on the far right, even some parts of the left, who say this money that we send to Ukraine, it's too much, it's gone on too long, we need to spend that money here at home, on the crises at home? What's your response to them?
Well, there are two pieces of my response. The first one is there are concrete facts showing how well we can protect our sovereignty and democratic values with your help. So it's not being used for nothing. And it shows that Putin can be pushed back and his army is not as strong as we thought at the very beginning. And second answer is it's absolutely clear that we should not be using money of US taxpayers to support Ukraine. We should be using Russian money that are about $500 billion are stored in the United States, Canada, and United Kingdom. And this is what we are fighting for. Please use Russian money. They are right here. It will be much easier on everyone, and plus it will teach Russia a lesson. So this is the fantastic solution that would cover and answer all those concerns.
So I want to play a soundbite from Fox host Tucker Carlson. Sorry to do this to you, but I'm going to play a clip from him from just a couple of weeks ago. Have a listen.
Now Joe Biden is calling for an unconditional surrender from Vladimir Putin. Here's the weird thing. By any actual reality-based measure, Vladimir Putin is not losing the war in Ukraine. He is winning the war in Ukraine.
Well, that take aged well. What is your response to people like Carlson?
Watch us. This is the only response. Watch us.
It's a good response. Let me ask you this. Do you think the recent days of fighting, the recent days of victories on the battlefield, is that going to lead to a negotiated settlement that leans more in Ukraine's favor than Russia's favor? Because we know the only way this war ends is a negotiation. The issue is, what are you negotiating over? And the Ukrainians have now made gains on the battlefield.
Well, first of all, this is our strategic approach to get as much land and as much territory as possible before the winter hits, and it will be very hard to fight. Second, as at the beginning of the war, same right now, we are saying we are not negotiating with Russia. We are not making any settlements with them. We are taking what is ours, and we are making sure to restore our sovereignty. As of right now, 6 months after the beginning of the war, there is still nobody in the world who would make a security guarantees that Putin would not attack again. So we have to protect ourselves. We have to weaken Russia to the point that they are unable to attack us again. This is the only way for us to survive. This is the only way for our children not to have to go through the same things that we are going through right now. We need to end this war on our generation and make sure that Russia would not rise again. This is the goal. And this is what we are moving toward. This is what we are fighting for.
So, Kira, in The Atlantic this week, writer Anne Applebaum wrote, and I quote, "The fundamental difference between Ukrainian soldiers who are fighting for their country's existence and Russian soldiers who are fighting for their salary has finally begun to matter." Do you agree with that? Is that what's made the difference finally in the course of this war, more than 6 months in?
You know, when Ukrainian soldiers wake up in the morning, they say to themselves, today I'm going to be fighting for my country, for my people, and if necessary, I would die freeing my motherland. And when Russian soldiers wake up, they say, am I going to die protecting some administrative building in the middle of nowhere? No, I'm not going to do that. And that's why they run. And that's why they will be running more and more, because we are fighting for our for our freedom, for our future. And they're just fighting because they were said so. And this difference would definitely show, and it's already showing everywhere, not only in the east of Ukraine.